You know, I want to tell you a true story. This story spans decades, but I can literally tell it to you in minutes. This story is about when I was a child and I lived in a very big house with a very large family. Now, this house was unique and special, and it was my home, my family home, for a very long time. We had lots of memories there. We laughed there, we cried there. We had an awful lot of memories there. It was a Victorian house, multiple bedrooms. My grandparents lived with us. I was the youngest of 9, and in the 1970s it just had a very special feel. The house itself was terraced. We had a front garden which we never ever went out into. And we had a rear courtyard with a little bit of a garden, and that seemed to be our outside space where we spent an awful lot of our time. It's funny because I look back on it now, and the most defining memory I have was there was a drain in the back lane, and we always knew when a stranger came to call because they would step on the drain in the backyard of the house, and it acted like, I guess, an alarm. So all of us who lived there never ever stepped on the drain. It just made too much noise. And whenever we saw that the drain had been stepped on, we immediately looked to the window, and very often it would be a stranger or somebody just coming in and visiting. So we were all very much aware of that. And the only time, really, I saw somebody step on that was my dad, when he returned home from hospital to tell my mum that my brother, who was only 10, died of cancer. And the scream that followed that, I guess the echo of that scream will always be played out in my ears forever. And of course, I missed my brother. We all missed him. He was such a unique, special person. And he fought long and hard to stay alive. But sadly, in August of 1976, he passed away. And of course, that left an indelible mark on every single one of us in our own, I guess, inimitable way. So that house, if it could speak, would tell an awful lot of stories. And the stories it would tell, some of them probably wouldn't be very nice. Can you imagine when years later I actually, as a police officer, had a call back to that house, and as a 6'6" man, I walked into the house through the front door because there was an alleged disturbance there, and I ended up speaking to a man who was residing in what was my bedroom. The house had been carved up into a house of multiple occupancy, and there were people living in different segments of this very large Victorian house. And I climbed the stairs up towards the top where my bedroom was, which had been turned into a flat, an apartment. And as I went in, I spoke to the chap, and all these memories of opening Christmas presents came flooding back. Of course, I couldn't say anything. I was there in a professional capacity. But how weird, how strange that life would divert me back towards this incredible place. There was some sadness attached to the house and some misery. And the misery, obviously, was around my brother's passing. But also, my mum had an illness. She had renal failure, kidney failure, and she was very poorly for many years. And she had been looked after by my eldest sister, who I must say was and is an absolute angel. So the house stood there and seemed to echo all the history as I took a step by step by walking up the stairs to speak to that chap. I had so many memories of that place. But I know it sounds really strange. There was an echo of something not so nice in that house as well. But I always try to ignore it and try to put the sad thing or whatever it felt like about that house to the back of my mind. Now, I dealt with that chap at the time that I spoke to, and it was about an allegation, I think, of a very minor assault from a friend of his. So to my surprise, literally a few weeks later, the house itself had an awful lot of interest because that chap, I believe, had been murdered in my bedroom. So what a startling story, and what an incredulous thing to have happened. And it really shook me, and it reinforced a feeling for me that house had some negative side to it. I used to get scared when in the middle of the night, whenever I needed the bathroom, I had to drop down what was 2 flights of stairs to use the toilet. It was a scary prospect back in the 70s, and I would at all costs try to remain and stay in bed. And the house sometimes made some noises. It's funny how a family home can really feel like a family home, but there can be another side to the place that you live. Of course, during the day, the house didn't echo any of that negativity. My mum, my dad tried to make a home that was befitting for all these children. We were very much looked after. We had our set meal times, and my favourite time was looking forward to Saturdays. They were always special. I remember my dad doing us some ham, egg and chips on a Saturday evening, and then we'd all get together and watch television. It was very much a very special family time. I remember on one occasion my dad actually allowing me to stay up on a Friday night to watch on BBC Two a Frankenstein movie set in the 1930s, I believe, but it was far too scary for me, and I remember hiding behind my dad's shoulder whilst he watched the movie. And I guess these memories will always have a part to play in my memories, if you like. Now, the house itself was wedged between various neighbours. There were the Stricklands on one side and the Parsons on the other. They seemed to all respect and like us, and that was reciprocated. Although we never actually physically went into their houses and they never really came into ours, there was that mutual respect, if you like. Everybody kind of knew everybody. And it was a special time. So it's very strange how fate can get you to return to a place where you just never expected to go back to. And also to find out that somebody had lost their life in what was my old bedroom. I don't mind telling you the reality of that. It really hits home. I, for many years, have tried to avoid anything to do with the house or going near it, and still don't have any immediate affinity to it. I don't go out of my way to avoid it now, but fate seems to think that it's not required for me to go back there. I don't think it's a place that I would want to revisit because of what's happened, but also I had my time there at that house, and it was necessary for us to, when we finally moved out, to move to a different, safer, better place. And I guess my mum and dad at the time made these decisions in order for us to grow as a family. Of course, I was no longer a very small boy by the time we left there, And I think I just started secondary school. So I was starting to get older, and things were starting to, I guess, change for my mum and dad as well, because they were seeing their kids getting married and having children. And that house, really, being a family home, provided that function for that to happen. It's funny, isn't it, how life can move on. And here's me now in my own apartment, overlooking what is a beautiful, beautiful sea view. And even when it pours down with rain, I go out onto the balcony and have a little look outside, or I've gone out and had a coffee and watched a beautiful sunset or a sunrise. Because I love looking at sunrises and sunsets, they're just amazing. And of course I share this place with my beautiful animal. He's a wonderful little boy called Buzz, and we have a great life together. He really does boss me around as a dog, but he loves it, and he loves spending time with his dad. We are Batman and Robin for sure. And it's funny what you call home, isn't it? I think if you have a space that you're able to relax and feel comfortable in, then home is where the heart is. And the heart is where it should be the happiest. And being at home, having the comfort of a home, it's so important. You've got to feel rested, you've got to feel relaxed, and you've got to feel that it's a place where you can just be you. After all, your home is your sanctuary, isn't it? And a place that you must feel safe. Now, I love doing all sorts. And very often I'll go over to my sister's address, and she's a very good cook. And these are my two sisters with me. And we were just gassing and talking about all sorts of things about life and sharing our ideas, our experiences. And it's lovely, actually, to have that exchange and that warmth and that kindness with my family. As I say, we are in diminishing numbers, but I truly value them as human beings. I love the fact that I have a family and that they are very special people. We may not always see eye to eye on a lot of things, but family is so important, and a house and a home where you share all those experiences are so important too. So I hope you have a lovely home and a nice place that you can share with the people that you love. It's so important to do that. And if you can, try and invite them around for a meal. Try and let them and show them how important they are to you. Because when they're gone, they're gone. Anyway, every day I do a video. It's part of my 1000 day series. If you could like, subscribe and hit that bell notification, or even maybe hype this video, I'll be back again tomorrow with something uniquely different. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.